Hey everybody, welcome to the Math Jedi. Today, multiplying and dividing positive and negative integers with a special guest appearance from a few cartoon characters. Are you ready? Here we go.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Math Jedi. Today we're looking at integers. And specifically, we are looking at a new topic. Well, if you've been kind of following along, we are looking today at multiplying and dividing. And typically when math teachers teach this lesson, they often do quite a bit of these are the rules. And I can just go and tell you what the rules are, and we could be done in a few minutes, but I'm going to try something a little bit new, and we're going to see how it goes. I don't know if this will go well or not. But for today, we're going to frame the rules. We're going to frame the rules around good and bad. Okay, now I know these are terms that are loaded with ideas and things like that, but good and bad. And we're going to kind of go back to the Old West. And if you remember in the old Westerns, you know, people would mosey into town on horses, and you had good people and bad people. The bad people usually wore the black hats, and the white people would wear the white hats, and it was interesting. So, and we all know that I like to draw. So, let's see if you know. We're going to do some drawing right now, and maybe you're already fast-forwarding the video, and that's fine. But here we go. So we're going to have our good and our bad. And let me just go and get a brand new thing here. And so we're going to do a couple here. So we'll start with good. And these are based off two, fairly popular characters, I would say, right now. And let's just see how we can kind of go with this one. And if you can tell me in the comments who I'm trying to draw here. I'm not going to give it away. So this one, we kind of always start with the kind of half. And I'm going to go and give this girl maybe a little hair, just kind of styled that way a little bit. And we're going to focus on eyes today quite a bit in the drawings. So the eyes, I like to have nice, large eyes. And if you're just learning how to draw, and if you like this kind of style, sometimes when you're doing eyes, you want to be having kind of little circles. And you can do a little tiny little line there, and then just kind of fill things in here. And then just go and fill this stuff in. So you're just kind of filling that in, and you're creating those catch lights a little bit. I'm gonna go and fill that in. Oops, that was filling in too much. So you want to kind of have those little circles that are going to give a little bit of catch in their eyes. And over here, I have a couple little catch lights, and I like to have a little kind of like almost like a crescent moon. Draw some lines there, and then fill things in. Now I'm still getting used to drawing with my tablet here, so this is not looking as good as on my paper practice. But we're getting something like that. Oof, I'm trying to fill that in a little more so it looks somewhat reasonable. Okay, and we're going to add in some little eyelashes. Whoop, like that. Kind of cute. And maybe a little bit of a smirk. There we go. And kind of happy. Ooh, did that look happy? I don't think that looked very happy, did it? Let's go and just nice curved eyebrows always mean happy. And for the kind of the hairstyle, she's going to kind of have maybe some kind of curves around to there. And we should give her some ears. I like to do ears with a little line there. Little ears, kind of line like that. And then of course we have shoulders. And let's see if you can kind of guess who this is going to be. Maybe a little collar here. Now the collar is really kind of the key part for this character's outfit. And we're going to kind of go down from here. Maybe give her a little bit of a flare. Yeah, maybe a little bit of a flare like this. And so she has kind of her jacket kind of open here. And let's see, kind of like a jacket kind of opening there. And then the arms kind of coming down right below it. Little collars, and I'm really bad at drawing arms and kind of hands, something like that. And we'll give her a very high waist. And then we'll give her a skirt like this. Let's see if you can start to guess who this person might be, who this girl might be. And of course it's math-based, so that should give you a hint with numbers and things like that. And see if you guys can get that one. Okay, that's the good. And then the bad. Let's go to, well, you see if you can guess who this is going to be. This one's actually pretty easy to guess. So we're going to start like there, and then we're going to kind of go like that. I'm going to kind of build up the head a little bit, maybe like that. And this is the fun part. We're going to draw some horns. So right away, the horns you can be really creative with. Just like that, kind of horns like this. And you should already know who this is probably going to be with the horns. And again, nice big eyes. And I'll draw a couple of catch lights. Something like this. And again, if I had my kind of settings of my pen for my stylus right now, I could probably color this in a lot better. But yeah, you want to kind of color that in and get those kind of catch lights. Maybe even give them some colors. These will probably look better on your paper. So we're going to learn very much math today, have we? And now, because she's bad, there she is. And you might want to give her some like really sharp eyebrows. Really sharp eyebrows. And there, she's going to have a big collar. And it's going to go whoosh. There we go. Okay, we got good and bad. So here's the story. Here's the story. So this is all going to be about a story. There is math involved in this now. So I'll tell about the story. And they're coming to town, and you have good and bad, and they're coming to this town. There's the door, and they're coming to the town. And this is why I want you to remember what happens with positive and negatives when multiplying integers. So here we go. So the story basically goes like this. When a good person is coming into town, and we're saying good is positive, and bad is negative. When a good person, and when something arrives, so when somebody arrives, we add them, and when somebody leaves, we subtract. So far, so good? Cool. So when a good person arrives in town, that's a good thing, isn't it? We want more good people in town. So when a good person arrives in town, that's a good thing. When a bad person arrives in town, what do you think? That's a bad thing, isn't it? We don't want bad people in our town. When a bad person leaves town, that would be a good thing. And also, I guess we can say kind of the opposite. When a good person leaves town, oh, we don't want that to happen. That's a bad thing. So these are kind of the rules. And this is kind of with the story of good and bad. So these are the rules right here of what happens. Now you might be going like, I have no idea what the Math Jedi, Mr. Douglas, is even talking about here. But I want you to kind of think of the good and bad in leaving. So when good people arrive, that's a good thing. When bad people arrive, that's a bad thing. But when bad people leave, that's good. And when good people leave, that's bad. Hopefully that'll kind of help you as we kind of work through the rules. Now let's get into some typical math stuff. So you've had 9 minutes of basically me trying to be maybe a little bit creative of things, and hopefully it kind of made some sense. So you had some drawings there. Did you figure out who it was? I'm hoping you figured out who it was. And I'm hoping that really did help. I am hoping. But here we go. Let's get into the math then, shall we? So here we go. We're talking about this kind of stuff. Let's say we had -3 times 4. -3 times 4. So we consider this a negative number, what I just called bad, and we call 4 is positive, so we said good. Okay. So when they go together, so remember when a bad person arrives in town, that would be a bad thing, remember? That will give you the answer of -12. A negative answer, a bad thing. So when the bad guy arrived in town, it was a bad thing. Your typical math teacher would just say a negative times a positive gives you a negative. That's what they would say. And quite opposite is if, let's say, you had, remember, a bad leaving, so maybe a negative times a negative, that was a good thing. Remember? It was a good thing, and that would give you a positive answer. That was a good thing. And the same sort of thing when it was super exciting, when you had, a good guy, or a good girl, a good person arriving, positive times a positive would give you a positive answer. So those are kinds of the rules. There's another way to phrase it. So if you're still kind of confused with positive and negatives when they're multiplying and dividing, what the sign is. We're all talking about what the sign is. It's basically, you could say this. If the signs are the same. If the signs are the same, you get a positive. If the signs are different, you get a negative. That is the rule. Now, where do students kind of get confused with this one? There's a reason why I just told you a story. If the signs are the same, it's a positive answer. That means a positive times a positive would be a positive. So far, so good. But a negative times a negative, that gives you a positive. That seems always a little bit crazy. That seems a little bit crazy, doesn't it? But that is the rule. If you have a negative number, negative 12, and you multiply or divide by another negative number, you actually get a positive answer. You actually get a positive answer. And when I said this, remember this was when the bad person left town. It was a good thing. Bad left town. We like that. It was a good thing. So maybe this will help you. Maybe this won't. But I always like to try different things out and see what kind of sticks in students' heads. And the different thing, so basically, if your signs are different, if you have a positive multiplying or dividing by a negative, I don't know, something like that, you get a negative answer. As long as your signs are different. As long as your signs are different, you will get a negative answer. Either way you look at it. Right? So this was when the good person left town, it was a bad thing. And when the bad person arrived in town, that was a bad thing. So either way, however you want to kind of memorize these rules, it's really, really important. Some other things to kind of also always be aware of is you're going to start to see, and these are some good examples to copy down, is when we're dividing positives and negatives, a lot of teachers like to, or they have signs in different places, and it seems a little bit always confusing. This says 18 divided by -3. Remember, fractions are really just division questions. That says 18 divided by -3. Sometimes teachers will write it like this, and this always confuses kids. This is take away 18 over 3. But this negative sign has to go either with the top or the bottom, the numerator or the denominator. And for me, I always use the rule of the negative sign should float to the top. It should kind of float. So I always like to write with my negative sign on the top. But we know that if the signs are different, you are going to be getting a negative answer all the time. All the time. The next part, so for the next 5 minutes, I'm just going to go and talk about another little specific part. I'm specifically going to talk about exponents. So we love exponents here. And we're going to talk about exponents. Some people like to call them powers. Some people like to call them indices. It all means the same thing. There are these things. They're up here. That's what we're talking about. Okay, so I get a nice big, woo, very happy yellow. That's what we're talking about today. We're talking about this stuff. And how it's going to work with negatives and positives. So we're going to be looking at, let's just give an example right away, just so we all know what things mean. Let's say you had 7 to the power of, I don't know, 3. What does that really mean? We have to review this a little bit. It means 7 times 7 times 7. Okay, so this tells you how many times you're multiplying. Let's make it, if you're doing a question, let's say you had, I don't know, 5 to the power of 2, or 5 squared sometimes we'll say. This means 5 times 5, and the answer is 25. Okay, so far so good. Maybe this is a review for you, maybe it's not. Well, let's start looking at what happens when you have negative numbers a little bit with this. Let's look at negatives and see what happens. We also have to remember one thing, is sometimes we use variables. We use variables to replace. And what I teach my students is use brackets. If you use brackets, nothing bad usually happens. So what do I mean by this? Here we go. Let's get one of my favorite colors out. Let's go green. I'm going to say this. X is 2. And I'm going to say Y is negative 3 for all these questions. Okay? That's what we're going to say. X is 2 and Y is negative 3. That sounds exciting. So here we go. Let's just say you had, so let's get some examples going. E.g., let's just say we said y squared. What does that really mean? So we're going to use brackets. So what I want students to get used to is wherever you see a letter, you just put brackets where it is, and everything else goes on the outside. So y. So what was y? Y was negative 3. What does this really mean? This means negative 3 times negative 3. Now notice, I didn't write down the multiplying sign, did I? Ooh, I didn't. If you see 2 brackets stuck together like this, there's an invisible multiplying sign there we don't write. Crazy mathematicians. Okay. So negative 3 times negative 3. What's a negative times a negative? We already said that's going to be a positive. Now, what if you had this as the question? No? Different question? Or is it? If you had negative y squared. Again, if you use the bracket version that Mr. Douglas always uses, you would put negative like this. You still put inside it, you would go and put that negative 3 inside it. If you follow order of operations, this would look like this. Do your exponents first. So this is still negative 3 times negative 3, but it looks like this. Negative times a negative would be positive, and this negative sign still stays there, carries kind of down, and your answer would actually be negative 9. This is a tricky one to kind of get used to. It's a good example to highlight in your notes, for sure. Let's go and do another one now and put it all together. Let's go over here. Because you're like, where did the x go? I want my x. And here's the classic question. X, take away y squared. I would do this on a test. I would give this to students. And I would love it if I saw them to replace. They would do this first. They would draw their brackets. And then just go and plug in the numbers. I'm really digging this yellow color today. So they would 2 there, and they would -3 here. And this would turn into 2 take away. We knew that this was 9. And that would be -7. Now, if you've been on my channel quite a bit, you know I talk about the K, M, the common kid mistake. The common kid mistake for these is to see this -y² and think this is a negative, so they think that this whole thing becomes positive. So they think this becomes 2 + 9, and they write down the answer 11. That is not true. So that would make, oopsies, somebody be very sad. There's the tears. There's the eyes. Crying. Ah. Okay. So be careful with that. That was a common kid mistake. Use brackets, and you definitely avoid those mistakes. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you liked the drawings. Comment down below if you can figure out who those 2 characters were. And until next time, have a great day.
I hope you enjoyed. Comment down below if you know who those characters were in the drawing. Until next time, keep doing lots of math. Be awesome out there. Have a great day.